I'm glad each one of you are here. I'm glad that you guys have decided that you're not going to let something keep you at home. And I also want to tell everyone here that it's probably going to be a few days before we get back to normal. But I hope what I have to say here helps you understand that there are better days coming. Because we don't have to allow our circumstances define where you are today. And I want you to tune in to me and listen. Don't think about all the stuff you're going to send me. I'm not singling nobody out, and we're going to talk about God's Word. And hopefully, by the end of the message, that God can give you some deliverance, because it is for everyone that is listening. At home, at work. We got a lot watching online. I was watching my phone go crazy as we were singing this morning. There's a lot of people watching. I even caught a few pastors that were skimming. So we're glad you was watching, but I saw you. We do that from time to time. But I titled this message this morning, Your Outlook Will Determine Your Success in Life. You may think, now, Pastor, wait a minute. Now, I got this figured out. Well, some of you don't. Some of you, your outlook and your attitude makes other people not even want to be a Christian. Really? I mean, some of you scare me sometimes. And I ain't scared of much. But how many of you this morning would say that things going on has affected your outlook? Whatever it may be. Whether it be sickness, whether it be protesting, whatever it is, has it skewed your outlook in life? And if you say it hasn't, you're not being honest. Because it has affected every one of us. But how are you going to allow this effect determine where your altitude and your attitude is? How many would say this morning that things happening has affected your attitude? Now, some of you, it ain't what's going on right now. It's what happened 3 years ago or 10 years ago or whatever, but it has affected your attitude. Maybe it isn't in a bad way, but it has affected the way you walk in your life. I want to encourage you today that your outlook and your attitude has more to do with your success or failure in your life than you realize. I've got one scripture today. Miss Tina thought I was being nice to her last night. But I got a bunch of practical stuff that I can tell you my story and tell you where I come from. And hopefully you see the way I live. And you can have that too. But it takes some changing up here. Your bad attitude. Your poor outlook on life. And life is going to be tough. And God's not going to bless it, is some of you's thoughts. But this is crucial. If you're going to accomplish your destiny, because it is in your hands, right? So do you want to be successful in life and accomplish your destiny in life with Christ as the center? Or has the one thing that Christ's given us been detrimental to your health? And that is a free will. Now, many of us can say our free will has screwed up a lot of things in life, and I would have my hand up because I've been there, I've done that, I've walked through that. But I have chosen in life. Many of you know I don't like being second, right? I don't want to be second first. I want to be first, right? I mean, if we're going to do something, let's do it big. My wife would tell you, that I have that problem. Not because I want it to be about me, but because I want it to be about him. Everything that we do in this building, everything that we do outside the building, I had a chance to help with the chicken at the fair, and I didn't take it because it just didn't feel right. But we're still going to be wild at the fair this year. I'm going to need y'all's help because I'm going to be gone at some of it. But I want to tell you what attitude means. You can look it up in the Webster's Dictionary. You can look it up in the Vine's Dictionary, which, if you don't know what the Vine's Dictionary is, it's the, I don't even know what you want to call it, the religious dictionary, the Bible dictionary. But attitude is a settled way of thinking of something. And it is typically seen in someone's behavior. Have you ever thought about your attitude? That people can see your attitude through the way you behave in life. Has your behavior been affected by your attitude? Have you ever noticed that it doesn't take very long to see someone's attitude by their actions? The young kids call it TUDE now. If you still have kids at home, how many of you can see when they have the wrong TUDE or not? It's very evident, right? I mean, it's hard for youngsters to cover up anything. Few of them can. But most of them, you can tell. When they woke up on the wrong side of the bed and they walked in and got smart with you, it's because they're mad at something. Is there any pilots in here this morning? Anybody? Well, if you used to talk to a pilot, in the plane, there's a gauge for attitude. Look it up. Here's what it tells you. It shows you whether your nose is going up or your nose is going down. Where is yours at? Isn't that so typical of you and I, though? If you got a good attitude, you're flying high, everything's perfect, and in 5 seconds, somebody can make you where you're wanting to land that plane nose first in the dirt. That's how it works. I could drag 5 people in this room, and before you left the church, I could make sure that your attitude was horrible. Why do we do that? Why do we allow other people to dictate whether we're in a good mood or not? Why do we let our circumstances, easy now, preach, why do we let our circumstances dictate whether we're in a good mood or not? Why do we let our circumstances dictate whether we're happy, sad, mad, or glad? If you're positive, you're going up. If you're negative, you're going down. This is so typical, especially in the world where we are. Every turn you make, someone is talking about all the negatives that's around us. Anybody been there? I went to the lumber yard yesterday, me and Tracy. Just had to pick up something 5 seconds, run in, run out. Before I got out of there, Tracy left me hanging. She's like, I'm out. In 5 seconds, I was told about dreams. I was told about Jesus coming back and how bad it's going to be and it's all going to get ugly. I was over it myself. If you want to be around me and my wife, I don't want to hear how bad you think this whole mess is. Man, it was good this week. Somebody bought me, you see this, Tracy? Somebody bought me a Honda hat and stuck it on my, I do not own a Honda motorcycle. Why do we allow all this negative to affect us this way? Because I want to tell you something. I've been saying it for the last 3 or 4 weeks. This is not the new normal. It is the only new normal if you allow it to be. You see, I believe that they can hurt us with our emotions. Now, don't get wild on me. I realize that the coronavirus is real. But does it have to dictate whether we're in a good mood or not? Does it have to overtake everything that's in our life? Do we have to get up watching it and go to bed watching it? Shut Fox News off. Shut CNN, MSNBC, all these other things on Facebook, and let's be happy. Because we can't do nothing about what's going on in this world. Now, I want to encourage you this morning. But as for me and my house, we are choosing to look to the author of our faith and the life, and we're choosing to have a positive outlook and attitude on it. So don't walk up to me and tell me some numbers that I don't even believe. Because we can't even trust them. But we can change our attitude. You know, there's many in this world that has been affected by something that's happened, catastrophic or not, and it has ruined the outlook and the attitude for years. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were talking about a grandma or grandpa. They always go, and I'm not saying this is bad, but they always go and they go to the grave and they see it on different days and all that stuff. And I said, can I respectfully tell you something? My grandpa was probably the most important person in my life before he passed away. He taught me how to weld. He taught me how to live life. He taught me how that I was supposed to raise my family. My dad's still alive, and he's taught me a lot, but my grandpa was one that you just couldn't, he just was that person. My dad's that person in areas in my life, my grandpa was. But I don't think that I have been to his grave since he died almost 20 years ago. You might say, well, preach, that's being disrespectful. No, it's not. He ain't there. I don't want that to affect my life. Because he's not there. One day I'll see him, but he ain't there. Now, I'm not saying that ones of you that go and do it are doing something wrong or doing something not spiritual, or I'm not saying it affects anything but your outlook on life. Because if something was to happen to me or Tracy, we've already said, don't worry about us. Go live life. Me and you talked about it. I told Susan, go enjoy life. You know why? Because that's what Lloyd would want. He doesn't want you to live in that moment, and he doesn't want next year you to be going back and just, you can't get out of 2000. He wants you to go have fun in 2021, 2022. And when it's your time, you got a lot to talk about what you did. I said, I want you to be able, when you see Lloyd, go, I spent every bit of our money. Sorry, Ryan. I told my mom and dad that one time, and my dad went and bought a brand new Harley, and I said, "Oh, that's my retirement. What are you doing?" But that's what we've got to do. You don't want to be stuck in the year that he passed away. Attitudes. I want you to listen to this. Your attitude is detrimental to every part of your life. Your attitude is detrimental to every part of your life. So this morning, how is your TUDE? Let me talk about churches just for a minute. Did you know that attitudes run in groups? I can take 20 women in this church. Now listen to me. I could take 20 women in this church and I could have probably 10 different groups. Because every person's got their own attitude, right? Good or bad. The woe is me's, that I'm never going to have nothing. You got groups for each one of them, right? There's groups. There's groups. There's guys in here that there's groups. There's some of us that are running as hard as we can because we want to make a difference in this world, and there's some that are sitting down going, I ain't doing nothing until this COVID goes away and social distancing. I ain't having it. Not saying either one of them's bad. I don't want to live there. I don't want to live in a box. Right? We have to make great decisions. We have to be smart in what we do. But we don't have to allow everyone around us to affect whether we're happy or glad. Did you know there's cities that have attitudes? Did you know there's businesses that have attitudes? Even families that have attitudes. Everywhere we go in life, there's attitude. Some good, some bad. I want to ask the guys for just a moment. Whether you have a motorcycle, a diesel truck, a jacked up truck, whatever you got, when you go in for maintenance to a store, what kind of store are you going to go to? What kind of store, guys, if you own a Harley, where are you going to go? Not the specific store, but which store are you going to go in which city? If you have your car, ladies, where are you going to have your oil changed at? Where are you going to have it changed? I'm going to have it changed, even if it costs more. I'm going to have it changed somewhere where there's a good and positive attitude. I'm not going to go somewhere that when I walk in, couldn't you come a few minutes early? It's like we closed in 10 minutes. Do you want to go somewhere like that? Do you want to walk into a church where they're like, I'm glad you're here. I hope you get something out of the service. Chris ain't here today, so ain't much you can do. He'll be back next week. And it don't taste very good. Them lights, you can't see to write down notes, so if you're a note taker or Bible reader, this ain't the church for you. It's too cold. This is the first day I ain't sweat to death in a long time. I'm going to even pay more for something if it is a place that is positive and where the attitudes and outlooks are positive also. That's just where I'm going. I don't have time for nothing else. Now, if God told me to go in that place to try to hop them up a little bit, I guess I'm going. But as typical, I'm not generally going to go somewhere. You know, this week, when we were sitting in the middle of London in the woods, you know that I didn't hear one person protest? I didn't see one person mad. I didn't have to worry about them tearing up nothing of mine. You got to enjoy what God give us, right? Why can't we do that today as a nation? Why do we got to be divided? Because you remember that song that you used to hear when you was a little one? Red and yellow, black and white. They're all precious in Jesus' sight. So why are we worried about the best syrup in the world, Aunt Jemima, that become a millionaire because of that? Why are we worried about Land O'Lakes, which took now, they don't even get, the Indians not even on the wrapper. Why are we going and taking all the names of all the football teams and changing them because it's, what are we doing? What did Christopher Columbus have to do with taking them down? We've got our minds and our thoughts in the wrong direction, and our outlook and our attitudes stink. Tracy the other day said, man, you're going a little bit overboard being nice to everybody. And I said, hey, I want all people to know that I love all of them, not just some and others. In Romans 12, chapter 12, verse 2, it says, do not copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person. By the changing of the way you think, then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. The question that you have to ask yourself is, do I have a godly attitude or do I have a worldly attitude? Am I happy attitude or am I sad, mully grubs and all that? That, you got to choose to be happy or sad. It is a choice every day you get up. I choose to be happy because it is no fun to be down in the dumps all the time. It's no fun to have the woe is me's all the time. Now, I'll sit down with anybody. But as a general rule, I'm usually happy-go-lucky. Because we have a choice. It will dictate whether you are successful or not. Have you got a conformed attitude and outlook, or do you got a transformed attitude and outlook? Some of you might need a transformed attitude and outlook. And it's okay. There's people on Facebook right now that needs a transformed attitude and outlook. I mean, like, we need to call NASCAR. They need to go over and change the wheels, set them back down on the ground, and say, now, go have a good time. What's that little tow truck in cars? You need Tow Mater to come see you. President Thomas Jefferson said, nothing can stop a man with the right mental attitude from achieving his goal. I'm going to read that again over here. Nothing can stop the man with the right mental attitude for achieving his goal. Nothing on earth can help the man with the wrong mental attitude. That's good stuff. That's something to live by. If you have the right mental attitude, you will win in life. Does that mean everything's perfect? Absolutely not. You choose your attitude. You cannot blame the attitude on anybody because you choose your attitude. Y-O-U. How many of you know my story, right? A few of you don't that's here, but I'm sure somebody here can fill you in because it's really a good one. I mean, I could have probably won a lot of money off of it if I'd have went to Jerry Springer. Or maybe if I went, what's the bald-headed guy that does now that used to be on there? You watch too much TV. But Steve's show, yeah. So I learned many years ago, and I've had to explain this to many people, but I can't tell you why that I have still respect for my uncle. Somebody's like, I wished I had half your attitude. You do. You see, I could have grabbed a hold of that. I could have wrote down the reasons why I'm going to have a bad attitude, and I'm going to go around and just destroy everything. Every time I can say something, somebody asks me something, I'm going to say his name. I'm going to destroy everything he's done. I'm going to do all that stuff, and that would have affected me, and it would have affected you guys and this church. Because if my attitude wasn't where it is, and I'm not saying I'm a saint. Ask my wife. She's sitting over. I am not a saint. I got plenty of problems. But for some reason, God has allowed me to continue to respect my uncle. When most of you's like, yeah, that we don't need none of that respect. But I want to tell you something. I've been able to move on in life, and I'm enjoying things right now that I wouldn't have been able to enjoy if I had took the low road and let my actions determine my attitude and the things that's went on in my life to just continue to talk about it and have hatred in my heart and not being able to let it go. Because it's not going to hurt nobody but you. It wouldn't hurt my uncle. He's going to go right on in life. We don't live in the same town. But I chose to respect him. You see, in the Bible, it tells you to respect your elders. It don't say if they act right. You see, it says respect your mom and your dad. It doesn't say respect them if they raise you right. It says respect them. You see, many say, well, I'm not Jesus, so I can't do it that way. But we got to try. When you get up every morning and you have a positive attitude, I promise it will change your guts life. Because bad attitudes messes your guts up. Does it make any sense? I'm not trying to win a medal. I don't want y'all. I want to live my life so that y'all can learn. I want, when I'm laying right here, hopefully that's many years from now, but I want every one of you to say, as a general rule, if preach preached it, he walked it. I don't want you to go, man, I wish he'd have told me some more stuff that was true so that I could get through life. I don't want somebody get up here and go, you know what? I wished he would have been straight up with me at least one more time. I'm living proof that this works. I can show you how to have that life that you go, man, I wished that we had a life like Dylan and Claire because they look like they got it all figured out. Look how lovey-dovey they are. Claire's wanting to kiss him on the mouth right now. And I'll pay for this at the end of service. How many of you have walked in here and sat down and went, you know what? I wish I had a couple. I wish I had their relationship. Anybody? Come on, it's okay. I've done it. Go ahead. I mean, anybody? Have y'all walked in here and went, man, I wish that couple right here is here all the time and they just look so good together? Did you know that it probably ain't roses with them? Did you know they probably fight at least twice a week? Did you know that they've woke up on the wrong side of the bed before? Did you know that maybe before they got Jesus, they were fixing to get a divorce before they walked in this room? One of the guys that I have the most respect for, he's in Florida, so I'm going to talk about him, is Mike Venable. Now, if you look at him, he's got it all figured out. He's very good at articulating Scripture and getting people involved, and he doesn't think so, but I've watched him and I know. But when they first walked in this door, the first time he come to help us work, I can remember we was over in the other section. I didn't know him from Adam. He said, "Preach, I'm a maintenance guy, so I can fix stuff." So we start fixing stuff. He'd been here a couple weeks, maybe a month. He said, "Preach, if we hadn't gotten this church," he said, "I'd be divorced today." Now, see, you don't see that, right? You don't see that on the outside. But on the inside, they decided something together that they was going to give it another shot. And now they're doing amazing things. You see, if you'll get up every morning and decide that you're going to have a good day, even if you hear they're shutting your electric off, you're going to have a good day, your life will be better. You know, there are books that are written that says, I'm living my best life now. There's a lot of good stuff out there, but you have to intentionally, in your mind, and sometimes it may be hard to do. You might have got up this morning and went, "Well, I don't really want to go to church, but yeah, if you want to." You may be the one that's getting the most out of this, going, "Lord, could you at least just let me accidentally oversleep this 1 week? I'd have made it up the next 2. You can't blame your attitude on anyone because you choose your attitude. Maybe you were done wrong. I got a song, country song like that. "You done me wrong" song. Anyways, my daughter's like, "Where'd that come from?" You might be in a tight spot financially. You might have been taken advantage of. You may have lost something you have worked very hard for. But it's up to you on how your outlook and attitude is. Your attitude is not caused by someone or something that happened to you. Your attitude is bad because you want it to be. That's good preaching, Preach. I appreciate you saying that. I'll talk to myself. I don't care if you won't. I want to step down in the Garden of Eden just a minute. I want you to picture in your mind the Garden of Eden. We were in a spot this week that I promise to goodness it looked like it was from Jurassic Park. It was called Jurassic Trail. It was amazing. Had a few tight spots, and Tracy walked once, but it was amazing. And we got going through there, and it literally looked like that it was the rainforest. Anybody ate at the rainforest up in Chicago or anywhere? There's probably more of them. It looked just like that rainforest. I mean, it had the great big leaved trees that was big as 2 people's heads. I mean, it really had the ferns growing. It looked like they meant for it to be, but it was just because it was wet up there. We got to going through there, and it was amazing. And that's what I think when I think about the Garden of Eden. That's what I think about. So if we get down in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve had a perfect bodies, right? I mean, they didn't have to take the hands off nobody and supernaturally make the picture look like everything's perfect. I mean, they were perfect from head to toe. So with those perfect bodies, and then they were set to live forever. Can you imagine this? They didn't have to go out and work a job. I mean, they would probably sleep in and wake up and go, "Oh, man, let's go look for some fresh apples this morning." They didn't have to go buy them. There wasn't no pain. Everything was perfect. They were living in paradise. Can you imagine living in paradise? They never had a bad day. Wouldn't that be nice? They never had a failed marriage. They never had marriage trouble. They never had to sign a marriage certificate. I mean, they was put together by G-O-D. Can you imagine him being your preacher? This next one makes me think of Joel. They never lost a child, and I know there's 3 or 4 in here that's lost a child. They had a perfect life. Their lives were perfect in every way, but they had a problem. They had a defect in the way they thought. They were selfish and they were rebellious. Now, what caused their bad attitude? Because they didn't have nothing that was going to cause them a bad attitude. What caused the bad attitude? Let's step down in King David's life. Just a moment. King David had his best attitudes were during some of the worst times that he had ever had in his life. His worst attitudes were during his greatest times in life. You're like, preach that? That don't even sound right. It's true. When he was a little boy, you remember when he took the cheese and he was going to go up and feed the guys that were fighting? He was a little boy, and when he fought Goliath, he was flying high as far as his attitude. I mean, wouldn't you? I mean, he just fought Goliath. But when Saul started trying to kill him, he was still respectful to him. See, that don't make sense in our minds. When somebody does you wrong, is the first thing you think of is respect them? Come on. You can tell it. I'm not thinking about being respectful. I'm thinking a lot of things, but respect ain't one of them. His attitude was great. But when David took the king position, here comes Bathsheba. Bow, chicka, wow, wow. While walking around in the streets of David's life, we see that when good was happening, I'll get it right in a minute. When good was happening, his attitude was horrible. And when bad was happening, his attitude, temperature was good. So you can't say that circumstances caused his attitude, because it was the exact opposite. Let's look at Paul for a minute. You guys know Paul. I mean, let's take a look back in Acts chapter 16 when Paul was in Philippi, and he was beat with rods, it says. Beat with rods. I don't know about you guys, but when's the last time you've been beat up? Let's look what he did when he was beat with rods. It says he was worshiping and praising God at midnight. That means after he got whooped good, he went and started thanking the Lord and worshiping. Now, if you just got whooped good, are you thinking about worshiping? Are you thinking about praising Jesus? If that was what, that would cause you to have an attitude. I mean, you and I might have been licking our wounds. He was praising Jesus. Here's the problem with most people. I know you want to hear it, so I'm just going to tell you. We think and rationalize in our minds, well, if my circumstances were better, so would my attitude and outlook. How many of you can honestly raise your hand, you don't have to, and say, you have used that line before? I can't help it because it's bad. You see, we cause our problems. But the problem is most of us want to blame it on somebody else. It's easier to blame, ain't it? Well, I said that I just let them have everything. I didn't want to stand up. They took advantage of me. Well, the Lord, guess he wanted to punish me. You know the Lord don't punish you. He ain't punishing you. Your things that happen in your life is what's hard to deal with. But you can either have that bad attitude and let it ruin every relationship you ever have from now on, or you can have a good attitude and give somebody some grace that might have hurt you and end up winning in life. So you can either fail or you can win. I don't want to fail. You know how hard it is to win when somebody's taking advantage of you? You know how hard it is to win when something's been took from you? Because our natural messed up man says, you got to get back at them. I mean, they done you wrong. I've even blamed God before. Yeah, I mean, hey, you may be somewhere today, and you might as well tell him, because he already knows. Because we want to blame something. We want to say some reason it's why it happened when it isn't. What happens is God created us to get up in the morning and have a good attitude and move on in life. And the devil says, you shouldn't do that, because how could a loving God cause that to happen? That rings in my ears every day. I haven't had but one or two problems with this COVID. One of them was my buddy Joel, but on the other side of it, I've had to deal with all kinds of stuff. Why would God let this happen to me? Why would they take somebody from me? Why is he allowing this to happen? I thought he loved us. He does. But he gives you the free will to have a positive attitude or a negative attitude. And I promise you, I have tried it out. And if you'll grab a hold of that good attitude, you get to noon and you'll be okay. If you get up in the morning and it's hard to put on that smile and it's hard to say, sweetheart, I love you, and in your mind you're going, I want a divorce. If you'll be positive until noon, I promise it'll get better, because it's easier to fix it than it is to go through it. I have been there. Because you have the same problems in the next relationship if you don't fix what you did wrong in the first one. And it can even, hey, I took all the blame on the first one. It was me. And inside I was like, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's why. When in reality I had things in my life that needed to change. It might not have fixed my situation there. There was a lot of things that happened, but the one thing I did was still respect them two. I've bought them two's dinner since then, because I don't have a white elephant in my guts eating me every time I run into them. And if you will make that choice, if you will choose to have a good attitude and choose to be positive and choose to find the positive in everybody and find the good in everybody, I promise your life will be a lot easier than it is right now. Because it's easy to find people's faults. It's easy to say, well, they done this or that, and look at them. I mean, it's in the news, so why wouldn't I tell everybody? Maybe they don't have the attitude that you think they do. Maybe there's some good in that person. And maybe if you'll look for it, I promise you, it's a lot easier to go to a party and have somebody in there that done something wrong to you than to go to a party and go, there they are, this is what they done. Because there's that white elephant. And how many would raise their hand and say, I want that white elephant in my life for the rest of my born days? We don't. You physically get up and decide that God is going to strengthen you. You got to quote that scripture. I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. You don't have to take that road. You don't have to let that circumstance or that thing in your life destroy the rest of your life. You know, I can't imagine, since there's been one awesome thing happened to Tracy and I since this whole mess that's been going on. And like I said, if y'all want to talk about what's going on in the world and talk about the news, do not call me and Tracy. I don't care. I'll talk about how bad you're having it. I'll talk about any problem you have, but I don't want to know what's going on in the world. Some of you might say, well, preach, you better open your eyes. I don't care. I get up in the morning and I'm worried about a few things. One of them is God. The next one's Tracy. The next one's the kids. And the next one's the church. And there's enough for me to worry about with them 4 things that I don't need to know what's on the news. Because if it's raining outside, I'm going to work in my office all day. I don't have to worry about what the outside's doing. I want to help you guys. We got to make it through life. Life's rough enough, but if you will physically get up every day and determine that my life is going to be awesome today and send somebody else a text that maybe it ain't being awesome and say, hey, go watch this message that preach, because I promise you, you'll have a better life if you're positive. And don't let all that negative come in. I've got to spend more time with that young lady over there the last 4 weeks. I felt guilty yesterday because I hadn't been to the church. But there's nobody there to do anything with. I can't go to hospital visits. I can't go see people. So why not spend it with your wife? There's positive in everything. What the devil wants you to know, and what the people in Washington are trying to beat in us, they're trying to, I don't care who you voted for, and I don't care who you're going to vote when it comes time. Just go vote. It don't matter. God already knows who's coming in this next time, and he's already got it figured out. I'm just worried about me and him, and me and you, and me and my family. The rest of it doesn't matter. I'll either have stuff or I'll have a great big auction. It don't matter. Because stuff ain't where it is. Your attitude is 100% of whether you succeed or fail in life. Have y'all got that enough? I mean, I keep on saying it. I'm a pounding away. It isn't a condition. It's a choice. Just like I've said, alcoholics, it's not a disease because I had it. It was a choice. Well, I just can't. I got to have that beer. No, you don't, because I don't. Because I got people around me that care about me. They're going to talk positive things to me. You got this, preach. Don't go do that. It's a choice. It's a choice. Being happy is a chosen attitude, not a state of being. If you're a happy person, it's not because you're rich or poor or good looking or ugly, or it's because you choose it. Some people like to make others laugh. But those same people are some of the unhappiest people in the world. If you see someone that is happy, that's a choice they're choosing. This morning as I close, I want everybody to bow their head, and I want you to listen. I'm almost finished. I want you to think about, just for a moment, about what you've heard. I want you to think about what you've heard today about happiness is a choice. With all that's surrounding us today, sometimes it's a stretch for many to be happy. Maybe for you it's been something all your life you've battled. This is my favorite new quote. Happiness cannot be traveled to, owned, earned, or consumed. Happiness is the spiritual experience of living every moment with love, grace, and gratitude. You can't buy or steal happiness. It's a choice. Abraham Lincoln said, we are as happy as we make up our minds to be. We are happy. We are as happy as we make up our minds to be. You know, this morning, you might be saying, preach, I don't even know where I'll go when I die. But I'd like to have what you do. You know, God can give you that today. Maybe you haven't ever asked Jesus into your heart. But we can fix that today. Just by raise of hands. Would there be anybody in this room that say, preach, I need to get my heart and life right? Would you pray for me? Anybody at all? Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Dear Heavenly Father, as we come to you today, God, I pray for the couple hands that was raised. God, as we pray, God, I know that you're listening to their prayer, and it has nothing to do with me. I'm just a tool. I want you to pray after me. Lord, I ask that you come into my heart and life. I believe that you died, you were buried, and on the third day you rose again. And help me to live my life pleasing to you. Now, if you prayed that prayer this morning, even if you didn't raise your hand, maybe somebody's online. If you're online, just type in, I raise my hand so we can get with you. But we at Crosspointe believe that you've just accepted Christ. Maybe you're going through something today and you need to come down and pray as they sing today. This front's open. Maybe there's somebody here today who needs to make that choice to get up every day and have a positive outlook and have a positive attitude and not let circumstances make the choice for them. Because being happy is a choice. Please come.
Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. And all the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God, oh, it chases me down and finds till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it, but still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh. was your foe, still your love fought for me. So you have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so, so kind to me. And all the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God, oh, it chases me down, finds still I'm found in the leaves 99. I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it, but still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. No shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. And all the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God, oh, it chases me down and finds still I'm found each 99. See, I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it, but still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God.
Dear Heavenly Father, as we come to you today, God, I pray for every person that's here. I pray for every person that's online. God, I pray for every person that's dealing with a circumstance that has made it hard for them to be happy, have a great attitude. God, have a great outlook on life. God, I pray for them. I pray that you would just touch their minds and their bodies today. Because, God, living in torment is horrible. And God, I pray right now that you would just reach down and touch their life today. Because, God, I want to say thank you for healing my heart even when I didn't want it. I want to say thank you for allowing me to respect something that ripped my heart out. God, most of all, I want to thank you for repairing my heart and life. And God, I think that was because you are a present in my life every day. And God, I choose to see the good and the purpose in my mind, to have the right attitude and outlook. God, I pray that you would just touch the ones watching. Maybe there's somebody there today that has heard the truth, now needs help implementing what they heard. God, I pray that you'd just give us a great day with family, friends. God, we ask these things in your name. Amen. You guys be seated real quick. A couple of things. We have got the